One thing that the members have seemed to really like around it is kind of the guidelines that we have around collecting. Like, when you join the group, you mentioned before that you got to say, like, who's the exclusive provider of autographs for Sidney Crosby. The other things we have in there are, like, you can't come in here and try to post and sell a whole bunch of stuff. Like, you need to be an active member for 30 days. We don't want people coming in and just dumping their stuff out. It's a community for collectors to collect. And something you also don't see in many groups is, like, a lot of people post what I always hashtag as mail days, like Sid mail day or Mario mail days. Like, when you get something new, it doesn't matter if everybody in the world has seen this product. Like, post it, show it, like, be proud of it, like, show people your collection, get people talking, get people engaging on it. It's a great forum for people to do that and to be proud of it, whether it's their first piece or their 100th piece that's out there.
I love that. One of the kind of vibes that I love so much about the groups that you run is that there are so many groups out there and so many collectors out there who are so hyper focused on getting something else and getting the best price and just almost not collecting but hoarding. And if that's what you do, that's fine. But I do think that some people would do well to take a step back and appreciate what you have. Join a group that isn't about trading and getting and obtaining and collect or hoarding, as I said. It's about celebrating the items that you do have. And I do love that stipulation that your group has, where you can't just come in and sell, because people will try to do that. And if that's the purpose of why they collect, I can't tell someone how to collect or how not to collect. But you're not trying to be that. You want to be an avenue for people to trust that everyone who's involved is there for a specific reason, and that's for a shared love of the product as opposed to an intent to sell eventually, and that's kind of why they collected in the first place.
One of the things that I've seen on Matt's site in particular, and it's my philosophy as well, and I've said this many times on our podcast and to people that are asking, because you and I both get mad a lot. What is this worth? Will it go up in value? Is this a good investment? And my number one philosophy is buy a piece because you really like it and it means something to you. And hopefully it will appreciate, but if it doesn't, you still got the piece that you wanted that brought you joy, as you said. And so that's really important to me. And then, just making sure that you have a good collection of, and you look around your room and everything means something to you, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing about his group that I love tuning into, and I haven't done it as much over the summer as I've taken a little easier this summer, but when I go into his group and I see the comments and the excitement when people post something on a mail day that they got, and it brings me a lot of joy, and I'm proud of when it originates at Frameworth, and mostly all the Sidney Crosby stuff does, other than what he signs in the street, and he's happy to do that when he bumps into somebody. But the excitement that they get on mail day and the comments, and not just the person that's posting it, but everybody else saying, wow, that's a great piece. Oh, where'd you get it? How much you pay for it? Is there another one available? I'd love one of those in my collection. That's the fun of his group.
Well, it's fun. It's fun because, I started my point by saying a lot of collectors can just get so close to it that they lose that track of what their love was all about in the first place. And in saying that, I forgot the fact that we, as the people who create the product and produce it, can also overly commodify it to a point where we lose track of its sentiment and what it actually means to people. So, we're kind of coming full circle in a nice way, but, we started off, pre-COVID, we dealt with a lot of people in between us and the customers, now getting out to reach out and communicate, for better and worse, mentally, because sometimes we hear some things that we didn't necessarily like, but ultimately we're better off for it. But that continued relationship with the customer, and maybe the customer with us, just helps us better understand the intention behind it and rediscover our love for the products in the first place. And that's why, Matt, you mentioned right now the Sidney Crosby group's got about 600, over 600 people. Mario Lemieux, about 500, over 500 people. And, I think a lot of people would probably say, well, we want 10,000. We want 15,000. And I'm sure, Matt, what can't be understated is your expertise in developing and finding traction in things like this. If you wanted that, I'm sure you could get it. But I think the importance is making sure that this is it's more of like a community as opposed to just population growth, right? And in the same way we value a relationship with one customer that can give us better feedback more than 20 customers who are just going to do a transaction and get the heck out of Dodge, right? Was that an intention when you were growing that group as well with you, Matt?
Yeah, I have a pretty similar collection and business philosophy to things, and it's fewer better. So, and I say this a lot. I think I've even told Brian about this before. We were talking about products and some of the consumers out there. Is like you want fewer better. Like you want to narrow your focus. You could have a group that's 10,000 people, and then you're going to spend all your time managing all the problems with a group of 10,000 people, or you can have a group of 600 people that are the right people. That help each other out and do the right thing and are genuinely there for the right reason. I say the same thing with collecting. It's like you could collect a million different one-off items, and at that point you're hoarding, or you could focus on what the right items are and narrow your focus there. So Brian said one thing there, talking about the pricing piece of people ask all the time, like, what's this worth? Is it going to go up in value? And that's what's nice about the community is people can come in and say, look, I bought that thing 3 years ago, actually, for a fraction of the price. And now someone will come in and say, yeah, I bought it last week for 3 times that. Like, I wish I could still get it for that. But like, people can share those experiences. You would never have that data or that information otherwise. And sometimes stuff goes down, sometimes stuff goes up. But what, I tell people a lot that, get upset about, pricing pieces. I say, like, nobody ever purchases a house hoping that it goes down one day. Like you buy a house because at worst case you still have a house, but ideally it goes up and you're in a good situation one day. Like that's how it works. Like I don't see any really different than when you're buying a collectible or memorabilia piece. Like you're buying for specific purpose or intent. Like you're not buying it to retire. If you're building your collectibles collection, whether it be cards or memorabilia around the specific intent to retire on it, you're playing with fire. You have to have a different a reason, and that's why I always go back to that. Like, have a story, have joy, like get things that mean something to you.
The one thing another thing I really like about his group is I've actually got to know the names in the group and some of the people that I actually follow their personal page back, because I want to see what is behind the person that is the collector. Kevin's one, Nancy's one. I won't mention last names. I don't know that that's appropriate, but I look at the group and I know the kind of comments they make, and I know some of the people can afford more than others, but they still follow. So, and they're very gracious. I love that piece. I wish I could afford it. Right. Because not everybody's in the same bracket. And there's other pieces, doesn't matter what the price is, they're going to buy it. But there doesn't seem to be that jealousy. There's envy. I wish I could.
Well, I think, isn't an element of it kind of living vicariously through the collector who is getting? I read GQ magazine. I can't afford a $400 pair of sweatpants, but I can look at it in a picture and think, like, that's pretty cool. Maybe I would want that someday if I had an ungodly amount of money. So I understand that. I think there's an element, Rob Report is a magazine where people look at luxury vehicles and everything.
I bought that all the time. I want one of those yachts, but I'll never get one.
That's it, right? And there's there is an element of sort of dopamine runoff when someone opens a mail day thing and everyone else gets to enjoy it. That's fantastic. That's what that community
That's the beauty
is
of Matt's group.
We hope you enjoyed this clip from the Sign Off podcast. Full episodes are available every single Thursday on any podcast platform you use and YouTube. So make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you next Thursday.